Pirates! This is Dylan from Yagamoto, and today we have another Whitebeard deck profile for you guys. We just finished our store championship season in Houston, and I ended up attending 2 separate events and ended with a record of 7-1. I was testing a couple of different builds and managed to get first with Strawbeard and third with Purebeard, netting a total of 2 more winner kids. Overall, I gotta say, Whitebeard is still a menace. Alright, no more distractions, let's get right into the deck profile. Alright, so first things first, we have our 2 winner kids right here. Very nice, very beautiful cards. I do wish that they only gave these out to the first place winners though. Make it feel a little bit more special, like the Luffy ones from the last store championship. And then here we have the best and the most toxic leader of the set, Edward Newgate. Alright, let's get right into the deck profile. First things first, I'm going to start off with the Strawbeard version. This is the one that I did win with at Tab. We're going to start off with the 1-drops. We have our 4 Nami. You know, this is the searcher of our deck. Since we are not playing the hybrid version anymore, the Nami is just going to be able to connect all of our pieces together. And I'm going to go ahead and show off the Strawbeard version first, and then I'll tell you the changes that I made for the Purebeard version that I made later on to get 3rd place again. 4 Namis. 4 otamas. I'm just going to go with the 1-drops first, get those out of the way. 4 choppers. Now we're going to get into the 2-drops. We have the most aggressive 2K in this deck, which is going to be the Sanjis. In very few scenarios, this card you can basically play on your turn 2 curve, and then on the following turn swing for 7 with this card after establishing like a 4-drop. So you can play this on on your 2-drop turn, and then on the following turn you'll drop like a Franky, a 4-cost, and then use Sanji effect, add 1 card from your life to your hand, and then so you get +1 an advantage, and then this becomes a 7k, and then you swing 6 with leader and then 7 with this, and then it also acts as a blocker because then your opponent's going to want to clear this afterwards. Another very aggressive 2k, we have the Luffy. It's a 3-drop, basically does the same thing. Add 2 Dawn to it. Instead of becoming a 5k, it becomes a 7k, so it's just another 7k swing. Overall though, I do recommend holding all of your 2ks in your hand until the end game, but you know, on the off chance that you do need to be a little bit more aggressive and like you literally just opening nothing, this and the Sanji do have places. Alright, so now we have our 4-drops. We have the 4 Frankies, 2 Luffys. Honestly, it could be in either order. You could go with 4 of these, 2 of these, or 3 and 3. It doesn't really matter. They serve the same purpose. They're just a 1k counter, 4-drop big body. Nothing more to say about that. Playing these on curve is great because it forces the opponent to have to interact with them, and if not, you're swinging for a 6 twice and then maybe dropping a rush Luffy afterwards. Now getting into the 5-drop cards, we have 4 Marco. This card is fantastic, hard to remove. People don't usually want to remove it solely because of the fact that there's a good chance that you just have an event to drop it back. But honestly, like a lot of the times, if you do have this card, you kind of just want to swing with it and then counter out and not actually use your events, because your events have more value in the late game than when you want to be dropping this. So yeah, Marco's a good card. Also going first, it gives you something to play on curve as well. Next we have one of the MVPs of the deck. 3 of the Monkey D Luffys. This is going to be searchable through Nami, and it's unblockable. This has stolen many games against any deck that wants to play a lot of blockers. A lot of the times, like, I'll even play it and then just keep it there. Like if I know I'm playing against a deck with low removal, for example, like Yellow or Grave Dofi, like where they can't remove this card, then I'll just play it and then not do anything, and the next turn I'll swing like really high unblockable. This card is pretty good. But then of course if you're playing against blue and stuff like that, this card just becomes like an aggressive swinger, because if you play it and you just don't do anything with it, it's gonna get 3000 worlded, red rocked, whatever. It's gonna disappear. Next we have 4 Thatch. So this card, in my opinion, is the only reason why you would want to play the Purebeard. Well, this and the Marcos, right? Because then they become searchable, and Thatch being a 6/8 is huge, and Straw Hats don't have a 6/8 searchable card yet, so I mean you can kind of replace this if you're playing Strawbeard with, like, if you want to play like something spicy, you could do like a Yasop, which is I think also a 6/8. I'm pretty sure Yasop is also a 6/8. So yeah, you can just play that in place of this. But yeah, Thatch, Purebeard, being able to search this is really powerful. You have to play this at 4 because it's not searchable in this deck. This card is really good because it dodges 3,000 worlds. And it forces Rebecca to have to waste their whole turn just to clear this body off the board. And because it's an 8k, in the late game, no one is going to swing into this card. Because why would you swing into an 8k when you can swing into a 6k leader when, let's say I'm at 0 life and you want to get as many cards out of my hand as possible, you're not going to swing into the 8k, you're going to swing into my leader to make me discard as many as I can. So this card basically just protects itself. It is a fantastic card. Alright, next we have our 7 drops. We have Port Gas D Ace, my favorite character in the show. This card is amazing. Playing this card on curve basically guarantees that you're going to be clearing off whatever they have on board, and yeah, the minus 3k is huge. Like if you have already a board established, like let's say like one 4-drop and then a Marco on board, and then you drop this, like you basically have 4 attacks going into 2 different cards that have been already lowered. And you can also save this in your hand for when they have a more established board and you just want to get rid of stuff. It's an amazing card, very flexible. 4 is a little bit too cloggy for me, but if I were to play 4, could be an option. I just think that like 3 works out perfectly fine. Alright, next we have our 1 of. So from this build, as you can see, I don't actually run the 4-drop Marco, the one that can revive itself over and over again. The card is amazing, but the fact that it's not searchable, I would rather just have more counter. And yeah, so I'm running a lot more counter power, I'm running a lot more events. And then this one right here, I actually was planning on cutting it after the event, because after like round 3 or so, I was like, man, I'm not really using this card, I'd rather just have another 4-drop. So in my head, I was like, I'm gonna play a 4-drop instead. And then in the final round, I played against yellow, and they actually, I forgot what they did, but I think I had a thatch on board, and then they caught a crit with my thatch into my life, and then I top decked this. So I was at 3 life when I top decked this, so I just dropped it immediately, and now I'm back at, I'm at 3 life because, and I'm super healthy, have a Whitebeard on board, and I'm at 8k. So it makes it really hard for them to deal with in that specific scenario. Overall, most of the time though, right now, the current way that Whitebeard plays, you kind of just want to take every life. So a lot of the times when you finally are able to play this card, you're already at 0 life. So it kind of feels scary when you drop it and you only have maybe 1 Dawn up, maybe 0 Dawn up if this is on your 9 Dawn turn. And then they could just swing super tall at you, and then you might have to discard your whole hand. So this card, I think, is better in Purebeard because it's searchable, and but overall I think that it's not really necessary. Alright, now we're gonna get into the events. We have 2 Bad Mana Kick Horse. This is the list that I was playing at the event at Tab. I'm immediately cutting this card. This card is actually just not good. I thought that it would be awesome because it was a 0-cost card, and the theory behind it is that sometimes I end up with like extra aces in my hand, which in my opinion, if there's one card in the deck that does clog, it's going to be the aces. So this right here would make the ace into a 1k counter. Good idea, but then I realized that a lot of the games now in the current format that's a lot slower, there ends up being a lot of turns in the late game where you just you have a lot of extra Dawn. And this card makes it so that you can't bluff as much, because now you're pitching 2 cards for this one, and you can't bluff that you have a lot more cards in your hand and a lot more counter than your hand that you actually do. And because of that, like, I think this card actually makes the mind games a little bit worse for Whitebeard, and because of that, I would rather have Red Hawks in this slot. Oh, I am actually running Red Hawks, by the way, but so the list, there was one regional list I was running 4 Red Hawks. I only figured out after the event that 4 Red Hawks would be good, and that's why I'm saying, like, I would rather have it be 4 Red Hawks instead of having these 2 Bad Mana Kick Horses. Alright, next we have our 1-drop event package. I mean, you already know, you gotta have the 4 guard points and the 1 Radical Beam. They're just amazing cards. This card is essentially always live because you just take every single life, so by the time you're like hitting 6, 7, 8 Dawn even, like you're already at 0 life, so it's already live. And then the last 2 cards, just the Red Hawks. Yeah, another thing that like I guess could be good is like the trigger effect, but honestly you're almost never going to use the trigger effect because you're taking life so early so that even when you are losing off all your life, you're not at a point where you're going to die anyway. And Red Hawk is usually really cool because of the fact that it minuses 10k, and let's say like they're trying to go for game and they have like their biggest body attacking last and they hit this out of life and they just minus 10k on it, then they're not going to win at the turn. But in this deck, like that effect, that trigger effect is rarely going to come up. This card is mainly used to counter out decks like Queen, Trafalgar Law, who have a lot of small bodies on board. This card actually helped me win in one Queen matchup where they were just dropping a bunch of like baby blockers and I had 2 Dawn up, Red Hawked one of them out of the way, and then I was able to go for game afterwards. But yeah, so, and also it does really good against the Law matchup, who's just going to try to infinite value you, but if they're unable to keep shambling because you have a Red Hawk almost every single turn, it's rough for them. But yeah, that is going to be the Strawbeard deck profile, and I just want to quickly go over the Purebeard version as well, just to kind of give you the thoughts on it, because personally I did like the damn, that's a tongue twister. The Purebeard version more. I did like that one more. So let's get right into it. Alright, so right here is just going to be the Purebeard version of it, and all I did was change out a couple of cards. So Izo becomes our new main searcher of choice. It just replaces the Nami because now you use Izo to search all of your Whitebeard bodies instead. And yeah, like this is just self-explanatory. Next, 1-drops. We do add in the Makino into this deck, into this version, because the Strawbeard version does have a couple of more, I would say, more aggressive 2Ks with the Sanjis and the Luffy 2K. And with this one right here, it adds a little bit of aggressiveness to it. It makes so that like if you play an Izo early and then they don't clear it off the board, then Makino, holding a couple Makinos in hand can make this just into a big swing late, in the late game. Next, we have the replacement for Chopper. It's just going to be Fossa, searchable blocker, 1k counter, just as good. Actually has certain scenarios where it's worse. For example, like in terms of Dawn management, Chopper, in my opinion, is better because you can rest 3, drop 3 Choppers if you happen to just open a bunch of them in your hand. But Fossa does have the added benefit of being a good card to play against Rebecca. Rebecca is one of the harder matchups for Whitebeard because they can just kind of work on building a board for the entire game, and then in the late game when you've basically taken up all of your own life, they just clear your blocker, swing 20k at life twice, and then like even the best Whitebeard players, like they'll probably be able to counter out of like 120k, and the second one is probably gonna knock you out. So yeah, Fossa, because it's a 2-drop, it doesn't just get instantly cleared by like a Leo, because they could go like Leo, KO the Fossa, King Kong gun, swing 19 at life twice, and then that's just like lights out. So Fossa does have that going for it instead. But I still think that I prefer the Chopper overall. I do like it's a 1k counter, but I do prefer Chopper overall. Having just like a much cheaper play, you can use up all 7 of your Dawn very efficiently, or keep up like multiple for your events as well, and then only have to tap 3 to drop 3 Choppers down. It can make it really hard, especially for Yellow to even compete against you. But honestly, like both versions of Whitebeard have a really good matchup against Yellow. Next we have Jozu, just a searchable 2k counter. You very rarely will use the rush effect of it, but if needed, I guess you can use it, but it's very rarely used. Mainly just a searchable 2k counter. Alright, so we have Speed Jill instead of the Franky and the Luffy. In the Strawbeard version, we're running 6 4-drops. This one we're just running the 4 right here, and we're adding on another 4-drop in the form of Blocker Marco. Now that this card is searchable, it becomes a lot better to play. I mean, it being a 1-of, it's just like, it's not sacky enough. In my opinion, the Purebeard version is slightly less aggressive than the Strawbeard version, just because Strawbeard version you're able to search the Luffys, which means that you're able to go into the aggressive 3-swing turn earlier, while in the Purebeard version you're still running the 3 Luffys, but you don't get to search for it. So if you open it, you open it. Instead, you're searching for the aces, which means that your late game is going to be a lot stronger. And now that Thatch is searchable, it's just very powerful. You're always going to have like big bodies on board. And then these two, I already kind of mentioned it earlier, like the build that I was playing for Purebeard, I was running the 4 Red Hawks over the Bad Man at Kick Course. Worked out pretty well for me. It did clear off some stuff like in the store championship, but like I said, I did end up losing 1 game in the second store championship that I went to, and it was actually to Yellow. Like shout out to Marco, he kicked my ass. He played it really well. He just straight up did not interact with me the entire game. So a lot of things right now is like people will try to swing into Whitebeard and try to kill you early, right? I think that that's the wrong way to go about it, because what you're basically doing is you're giving them 3 draws per turn. So for example, I draw 1 card, I get 1 card for my life, and then let's say you swing at me for 8k. You spent 3 Dawn onto one of your characters just to swing at me for 8. I was already gonna take it anyway. So now I also get more cards in my hand, and I get to the point where I have a lot of cards in my hand a lot earlier, and I'm not relying on the Whitebeard character card anymore. So it doesn't really matter like for me to keep any life. So I just take everything. What he did was he basically just kept my hand size low by not interacting with me. So instead of drawing 3 per turn, I was just drawing 2. And then the one time I swang with my with my thatch, he just went 12k into my thatch. I had to let it die, killing one of the bodies off my board. And then he just protected his the character that he swung with. And then after that, at the very end, he just swung at me for 8, I think 5 times in that game. And I had double blockers on board, a Red Hawk in hand, and 2 2Ks in my hand, and I just wasn't able to counter out of 8k 5 times. And yeah, he scientifically just completely destroyed me, man. He played it really well. And that was the first time that I felt like I just got completely whooped by yellow. Because usually a lot of the times it's like, if I do lose, it's mostly me losing to myself, like miscounting here or there, or just like yeah, like I don't really see it as like me really getting beat as much as it's me beating myself with this deck. That's why this deck is so stupid. But yeah, that is the Purebeard version of it, and I'm gonna have all of Decklist like listed in the description below, just in case you guys want to see like a wide version of it. And yeah, alright, so before I end this video, I wanted to quickly go over my thoughts of the current meta. Both versions of Whitebeard are very powerful, and I think as of right now, it is, if not the best deck, the most consistent deck. It has a couple of bad matchups for sure. However, those decks that do well against Whitebeard require a very skilled pilot to play the matchup perfectly. And so to tie that all together, I do believe that the meta right now is currently broken into 3 main factions, this being the red decks, the yellow decks, and finally the control decks. Red includes decks like Zoro, Law, Whitebeard. These 3 decks have an incredible matchup into yellow, but typically do have a hard time against control decks of the format, such as Rebecca, Film Dofi, Queen, and even starter deck Croc to some extent. Film Dofi is actually really hard for Whitebeard due to the 10-drop being able to just completely freeze a turn. That combined with blocker Uta being able to just rest just about any character that Whitebeard plays aside from Thatch makes it really hard to be aggressive against the deck. These control decks, however, they typically have a hard time against yellow, specifically a big mom pirate leader. Really that's what we assume yellow to be right now. Big Mom Pirate leaders can chain drop the 10-drop Big Mom, and yes, Red Rock does exist, and most of the control decks now can efficiently remove one of the 10 drops. However, it's usually when that second or third one drops that it starts to become a problem. Although, once again, Film Dofi does have a pretty solid matchup against yellow due to its ability to vomit out blockers, have infinite resources with Tesoro and Nami, since yellow's only form of hard removal is Thunderbolt. And so yeah, I think that Film Dofi is pretty strong right now. And Fort Worth is about a month away for me, and I think that a solid contender and the deck that I might take for this regional would be Film Dofi. If you guys have any suggestions or differing views, please let me know in the comment section down below, as it would help me and it would help out my thought process as I prepare for the upcoming events. Once again, if you guys do enjoy this type of content, smash that subscribe button for me to get OPTCG content thrusted straight into your YouTube feed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and swing for game. Peace. Takes you a minute just to breathe for the moment, breathe the moment. Pirates! This is Dylan from Yagamoto, and today